Settling is not an option for me. Everything I desire is already mine. What if you can have it all? Because every day is for the girls. Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of For the Girls. I'm your host, Victoria Alario. And today we have a very exciting guest, Heidi D'Amelio. And I'm not going to lie, this is a first for me, so I have to share. I was actually a little nervous at the start of this conversation. We just got off, and I'm feeling so much better now. But at the beginning, I think I had some imposter syndrome step in for a brief moment. Like I said, this is kind of a first for me. I don't really experience that too often, but Heidi is just such a star. And of course, you always want to be seen as an equal to your peers or your coworkers or whoever you're connecting with. So I'm just like, here's little old me. Like, I hope she takes me seriously. But Heidi was just so grounded and humble and kind. And she really opened up and got vulnerable throughout the conversation. So I think if you watch this on YouTube, you'll see that. I think you'll really see the energy flow. I think you'll see the confidence come in, even, between the both of us throughout the conversation. I think if you're listening too, you'll be able to hear that. You'll definitely hear how the conversation gets deeper and deeper throughout the interview. And then, even if we are worlds apart and have different backgrounds and ages and lifestyles, at the end of the day, we're still two girls chatting, like no matter what, this is for the girls. And once you get into those deeper conversations, like it's just like, okay, like no need to have that imposter syndrome. We're all, just trying to get through life and trying to do our best. And she really, I think that humility and being grounded and all that, because she's so family oriented, I think that really helps. And so this was a very big interview, very big conversation for me. So I'm really happy with it. And I'm so excited for you girls to hear it. So if you don't know Heidi, she is the matriarch of the D'Amelio family. She was initially known and came to like the social media space as being the mom of Charlie and Dixie D'Amelio, who are like the biggest, talk about a star. They're like the biggest stars. So amazing, everything that they're doing, not only through social media, but how they've really stepped into being like little celebrities now. It's amazing. But aside from that, now Heidi has so much going on with the family reality show on Hulu and stepping into her new role as a businesswoman with her brands, D'Amelio Footwear, Be Happy Snacks. She's been hosting panels with other female business owners, and she was recently on Dancing with the Stars and killed it. And she's just in a space right now where she's ultimately building her own brand and stepping into a whole new light. And she talked about how going on Dancing with the Stars really built up her confidence and allowed her that really coming into her own, to start coming into her own. And I think it's so amazing to hear and to be able to share, because I myself have had so many listeners and followers send me messages and comments, even when I talk about whether it's dating or business, like it's too late for me to start over, it's too late for me to start something new, or they feel like their time has passed. And if you have ever felt like that, no matter what age you are, because sometimes I have girls in their 20s say the same thing. If you can relate to that, Heidi is going to give you such a mindset shift in this conversation. So, like I said, I'm excited for you girls to hear it. So let's get right into it. Welcome, Heidi, to For the Girls. I'm so excited to have you on the show. Introduce yourself. Tell us everything about you.
Well, thank you for having me, Victoria. I'm so excited to be on a For the Girls podcast. That's really cool. My name's Heidi D'Amelio. You probably know me best as the mom of Dixie and Charlie D'Amelio, but I've been doing lots of things on my own. So we have a show on Hulu that we've had for 3 seasons. That's about our family. Our kids kind of blew up on social media, and our whole family. And we're just trying to kind of get through this new journey and chapter in our lives. I did Dancing with the Stars. I've done a lot of things that I'm doing more on my own at this new part of my life. So that's been super exciting. So that's a little bit about who I am.
Yeah, it talk about a little bit of a change in life. I mean, your lives as a family, as individuals, has just completely changed over. Would is 5 years fair? Like, is that when you would say it's been about?
Not yet. See,
Oh, even
fall.
less.
Yeah, yeah, fall of 2019. So we're not quite 5 years yet. It
Wow,
seems like a
even
lifetime though.
shorter. Oh my god, it
Yeah,
really does.
yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. So, okay, in less than 5 years, I mean, millions and millions of followers. Like you said, you were on Dancing with the Stars, which is probably like a what the hell just happened moment. The reality show on Hulu, multiple businesses now that you've come out with that we're going to talk about. Your daughters are beyond social media people, they're celebrities at this point. We're gonna get into all that, but this is a lot. I want to know before this all happened, like what was your lives like? What was your family life dynamic? Everything, was this completely out of nowhere?
So we did live right outside of New York City. Mark has been in the clothing business his entire career. So we were constantly in and out of New York City. The girls were very comfortable with big city life. Mark had a showroom in New York City. And just the nature of his work, it brought us to, you know, events and concerts. One of his big customers that he worked with was Madison Square Garden. So we've gone to every concert and everything there. Like they grew up doing that because those were his clients. And going to sporting events and NBA All Star and all of these things. So um, that was kind of the life. We're all very close. I'm from Louisiana. My whole family's there. Mark's family is pretty small, but they're amazing and we lived in Connecticut and that's where they are. So we're very lucky to live close by them. We'd go to Louisiana a lot. And, Dixie started musical theater when I don't think she was quite 3 yet, almost. And she did that till high school. And Charlie started dancing at 3. And um, they, they, they're, they tried a little bit of everything. If they showed an interest in something or wanted to try something, Mark and I would encourage that because how do you figure out what you really like by doing things that maybe you realize, yeah, I don't really like doing that. So anything that they were excited about, and I think even now to this day, if they want to try something, let's go for it. Like the worst that's going to happen is you get experience and you figure it out. So we just were very close because, you know, Dixie grew up racing BMX bikes as a family. We would travel the country doing that. Charlie going to Charlie's dance competitions. We were just always together. And Mark, although he had a showroom in New York City, he worked from home a lot. So they always had their mom and dad around. I was a stay-at-home mom by choice. I always wanted to do that. My mom was a stay-at-home mom and I was just a very shy kid and I can't imagine if she would have been out working, how I would have dealt with that. So it gave me a lot of years of her being there for me to get like my confidence and to get a little less shy. So I wanted to provide that for the girls. So I was always around and just encouraged whatever they showed an interest in. And also, sometimes they would show an interest in something. Charlie wanted to be an ice skater. And so we went and she had to wear a full snowsuit. And she was like, oh, yeah, wear the pretty leotards with the skirts. And the teacher's like, you're going to spend most of this hour on the ice on your butt. Like, no. So she was like, yeah, I don't want to do this. I'm like, well, we paid for 6 weeks, babe. So you got to do it. But really the message behind that was just, if you commit to something, you committed to this class and to the teacher, let's just see it through. And I kind of, they had to work, you know, a lot of what they did was working with other people and just kind of learning how to socialize and work in a group setting and solo. Dixie's BMX races, it's very solo, but she was also on a team. Anyway, so that was kind of their life. And so when Charlie was in 10th grade, she went viral on TikTok. Because at that time, TikTok was mostly just dance, like little dances. And then Dixie thought it was cringe. And she was like, "Can you please stop posting?" Like, everybody was on TikTok, but nobody wanted to admit they were on TikTok. It was embarrassing back then. And which doesn't, I say back then, it wasn't that long ago. And so Dixie's like, "Yeah, if you ever hit 1 million, I'll get on." Thinking, okay, that's never ever gonna happen. And let's see, 3 months later, she hit 1 million. So Dixie got on, and it just went wild. They were gaining 1 million followers a day. It was insanity. And I think the beauty in all of it was home and the four of us never changed. Like, it, they still had to go to school and do their homework. And, Dixie was on field hockey and Charlie was on a competition dance team. Like, they still had obligations. And that was, although that was happening, this was their life. So it was kind of that, okay, when do things really, we really need to figure this out because things are shifting and really fast. So that was kind of what led up to fall of 2019.
Did you feel like, once they were rapidly growing like that, getting 1 million followers regularly, did you notice them slowly like getting into like not wanting to go to school or not wanting to go to their other things because they were so invested in building this?
Um, no, it was fun. Like, all their friends were doing, everybody was just posting on TikTok. The girls just happened to have a lot of eyes on them, but it was just fun. Like, everybody was having fun doing it. It wasn't like, um, you know, something that, oh, we need to be serious about this. Like, it was just fun. And then there was, what was happening was people were reaching out. It was so early, people weren't monetizing on TikTok yet. And so Charlie had gotten a music manager had reached out for her to do a dance to an audio of his clients. And I was like, okay, nobody's paying you to do a dance on TikTok. That's not a thing. And if he wants to talk to you, he can talk to me. And he emailed me, and it was actually, I'm like going in a deep dive. I'm like, wait, this is actually legitimate. And so we had to really start thinking about this. And then they were going live and making money. And so we had to, like, as a family, like, what is happening? Because it was happening so fast. TikTok was so new. Nobody really knew what was what at the time. I mean, Charlie was 15. You can't even go live until you're 18 now. So it was crazy. Mark's like, we have to pay taxes on that. Everybody stop going live. Like, it was, we couldn't like stop it. So it was just all happening. And then we started, we would make trips to LA. There were things here. And so we would come. And so that's when it got a little, okay, how do we do this and, continue with your school obligations? And so, but they were good. We would come out here on a like Thursday night, and they'd take the red eye on Sunday, go to school Monday. We did that for a little while. And then quarantine happened. And so everybody was being homeschooled. So that kind of took that part where it could have been super tricky, and just it went away because they could do what they were doing. They could do school from wherever, you know.
Right, right.
So
So you kind of stepped into like the momager role like pretty early on.
no, that was the one thing from the very beginning. Mark and I said, we never want to be, we're always going to be parents first. We don't want to manage them. We don't, that, first of all, we don't know how to manage them. So we're not going to pretend we know how to do that. We know business, but we don't really know that business. And so
Mhm.
we found a manager who was also in Connecticut. And so that was super helpful. And then, well, we were doing lots of trips back and forth to LA until quarantine. And then we were just in Connecticut. And so we had a manager. We got to be parents. The girls got to, they were so young. They would still come to us first, like, what do you guys think about like this brand deal or that? And so we talk through it with them, but we didn't manage them. We didn't want to do that. We knew that
Got it.
was probably gonna be the death of our relationship as a family, and that we weren't willing to sacrifice that.
Yeah, yeah. So you once you like got that email, you saw this is a real thing. You're like, all right, we gotta like bring in out. We have to outsource for this because we're not gonna
Yeah.
take on like the emailing and the back and forth sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, we for sure did not know what we were doing, but we knew that well, they were saying they wanted to do this. You know, they grew up with social media. They've seen Emma Chamberlain and David Dobrik and all these different people make careers out of it. And so they knew that was a thing, probably way more than Mark and I did. So we just, tapped into the few people we knew that were somewhat connected in some sort of way. Mark being in the clothing business, he knew people who made merch for other people and like what does that look like? Cuz that was the big thing early on. Merch was so big back then. And how do you like what does that look like? Is that a viable business? Is that something who's going to buy their merch? Like who how what is happening? It was just a lot to process, but we always talked as a family and we always did check-ins because they they're saying they want to do this, but Mark and I on the side, like they're so young. Do they really, are they really going to miss out on? Well, everybody was missing out on a high school experience, but what is this? We didn't. Who thought quarantine would last so long? And are they really going to sacrifice high school for this? Like, we just wanted them to make sure they understood that you can't get that back, that high school experience. And so those were the kind of the conversations we were having. And then quarantine lasted a lot longer, and then we ended up just moving to LA. We just did a one-way flight and we got here and that was it. So it was a
You
lot
just
easier.
immerse yourself.
Yeah, and just still, I mean, literally we have a call tomorrow just to check in, like how's everybody feeling about everything. I mean, we have our work meetings like every other week to talk through business, but this is just a family check-in. Like how is everybody like emotionally feeling about everything that you're working on? And so we still do those. We always did those, and they always knew that like family was that, and that to this day hasn't changed. Like we're still very much the parents. If we are like go and rent an Airbnb, like we get the primary bedroom. Like that, I don't care how many followers you have. Like mom and dad gets the big bedroom. Sorry.
Yeah, I love that you said that because that was such an important question I was going to ask you too. Like, how do you really draw that line, or how are you able to still support each other emotionally while also having to be there for each other professionally? Because there must be times where the line gets blurred, but having check-ins or whatnot, being really intentional about
Hmm.
having that separate time is probably the best thing for you. Like, do you guys still get to like have dinner together and just talk about things in your personal lives outside of the work life?
So I will say it's taken us time to get where we are now because it's social media and real life, like we're all on our phones and we're hanging out, and it all of a sudden we'd realize we're talking about work again. And Dixie was the most vocal. She was like, "Yeah, I don't want to do this. I want to hang out with my family. I don't want it to end up talking about business." And we wouldn't even realize. She was probably the most sensitive to it, and she was like, sensitive and then vocal. And we're like, "Wow, how did we get there? We were just talking about a puppy dog video and now we're talking about this brand deal and how no." Also, we're much more structured at we have an office space here now, and so we're much more structured on when the meetings are and when we're talking about that. Like early on it was just kind of all over the place. And "Oh, well, I have you for 5 minutes. Can we just talk through whatever?" And so we don't do that anymore. It's not even a thing. But I will say it took some time. And I remember Charlie saying like the lines are too blurred. Like, when are we business partners and you're my mom? But it ultimately, it just took time, but in that time, we were all very sensitive to it. We weren't good at it yet, but we were sensitive to like, I don't want you to come to me and feel like you can't just be my daughter. I want you to know I'm mom first. or don't feel bad about like, my stomach hurts and I just want to cry and just be my mom. Like that's always a priority. So it took a little time and learning to communicate more about it, because I think we're all just trying to do our best and like keep our head above water with like, the highs and lows of social media. And so now we're so, and we take time to like talk about that, how proud we are of each other for being where we are and being this family that, I mean, we all are just moving, and the girls were like, can we all be neighbors? I mean, that's huge. You would think at this point there's a good chance that they wanted to be as far away from us as possible, but here we are, all neighbors. And and I mean, I couldn't be happier.
That's probably though why you did make it this far professionally in those terms, like as a family, because so many girls their age go viral on social media. So many girls have blown up and have big YouTubes and TikToks and all the things, but rarely does the entire family not only get involved, but like rarely does anybody care about the entire family. And I feel like it's because of the principles that you guys have in place, and because the girls come to you. I think that's what makes people care, whether it's that they can relate, or maybe it's that they can't relate and they wish that they had that. Maybe they just see that through the show and even just through the videos, and they're like, I love, like, I really resonate with this family.
Oh, thank you. And I feel like we hear that a lot, like when we're out and about, just people will say, I love your family. Like, of course, they love the girls, but they'll always say, I just love you guys as a family. Well, and the way that started, I mean, I'm going to back up a little bit, going back to like us as a family. Like, Mark still has his same job he always had. Like, we never needed the girls' money. So, I think that can be tricky in families. And they always knew like dad has a job, that he's not dependent on us. Like, we're still us, and whatever you make is yours. Like, obviously, we have family deals, we split, but, it's split appropriately, but, whatever. So, and then to answer that question, we do get that people love our family. And what happened early on was everybody loved the girls and then they didn't. And it got real dirty on the internet with hate, and it was really hard to watch and look at the comments. So also, neither one of the girls had really spoken online before. And so all you would see were these sort of, lip sync videos or dance videos. And so people were kind of making up who these girls were. And so Mark and I thought, because the girls didn't, we would tell them, say something, you actually have a family, you have dogs, you have a life, you're a dancer since you're 3, you're a singer since you're 2, like, talk. And they just were like, it was so new and scary. They were just like, no, I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing. So we thought, let us post that, so they don't have to do it, and people see that there's more to them than that 15-second like video. And when people saw them as kids and us as a family, and they're like, wait, they're actually normal, wait, they remind me of my family, they're actually a normal family, why, okay, wait, okay, we like them. And that we weren't trying to get people, oh, we need them to like them. It's just to see them as like they're human beings just like you, like they had a life before this. So people only knew them from, whatever, July of 2019. And we showed them through the family channel on TikTok and Instagram, whatever, that there's more to them than that. And so I think people kind of saw them, obviously the girls have their own thing for sure, but they do see that they are connected to this family that's family first. So I think that was kind of how the family thing started. And then when people started coming to us about doing a reality show, they wanted the whole family, because I mean, I think the girls could have done their own thing, but they saw the dynamic of these young girls and the family here to like protect them. They like, everybody wanted to know that story, like, you know, and how is this going to play out?
Yeah, well, I mean, it really did separate you guys from the rest. And I also think that it makes the influencer or whatever title they prefer to go by more real. It makes them more real girls, aside from just like being aspirational or inspirational. It made them, oh, they are teenagers. They are
Yeah.
in high school. I mean, like you mentioned about the comments and whatnot, I want to know what that was like for you, because this, I know that the girls were traveling, they were experiencing a lot, but this was still a new territory in the sense of like, this is pre media training, this is pre press and talk shows and interviews. Like, I think about like back in the day when I would get nasty comments, like my mom would be in my comments. I'm like, "Mom, you can't be doing that." Like, did you want to just like get in there and be like combating the comments that they would get? How did you
Yeah.
hold back?
We did do that. Mark and I would do that, because we knew they weren't going to do it for themselves. Dixie was always really good. Dixie would really defend Charlie in her comments, because she didn't like it for herself, obviously, but she hated seeing that for Charlie. And so it all came from a good place, but ultimately we were like, we can't do this. We can't keep doing this. It's just draining. It's like playing whack-a-mole, and it's just not worth it. And so we don't really do that anymore. But we had to go through it. But and also some people just need to know, like, that is not okay. Like, it is not okay. Also, I feel like with our show, we got to you got to really see the effects of somebody that's sitting here and getting millions and millions and millions of hate comments, and what that looks like on the other side. So I think because we had that, and people really were like, whoa, I didn't realize, how that can affect someone. It changed, and it gave the girls like, okay, I can I don't need to respond. Mark and I don't respond. It causes more problems for them. It's just not worth it.
They probably were like getting embarrassed. They're like, "Mom, like,
But they
you
got
can't."
it. I mean, but they would it was hard because they would come to us and, like, cuz some of it was people from their hometown, or people they knew, or people that they had met. A lot of it was adults coming after a 15-year-old, and that was just not okay. And, so they're coming to us like, so you just want to help your kids, and so that's the only thing like we had to do was to respond. And then they attack us, and the whole it was just a lot. So yeah, we don't really do that anymore.
No,
We've
I
learned.
totally get it. I get it. I want to talk more specifically about your transition, because you mentioned from the beginning, like, I was a stay at home mom. You mentioned something about like really needing to boost up your confidence to kind of put yourself out there more. What was like your personal transition, or like the timeline to go from, being a stay at home mom, maybe being a little bit more shy, to now, you're out there, you have millions of followers, you're doing the panels with, the businesses and whatnot. You yourself, like, girls aside, you are your own brand too. So did you ever really see yourself doing anything like this?
So before I even met Mark, I had moved to New York City. I had been modeling, and I wanted to see if I could model in New York City. So a couple of my girlfriends and I moved, and we were modeling. I mean, I was also a personal trainer, because modeling is so, you never know if you're going to get a job. Or so the personal training paid the bills, and the modeling was just something I just really enjoyed. So I always said, this was before I even met Mark, after I'm going to get married and have kids, and after they move out of the house, I'm going to resurrect my modeling career, because I really want to just be a stay-at-home mom. I didn't want to do both. I'm not good at that. I need to focus on one thing. And so I always knew after they were set, I was going to try to get back into modeling as a mature lady. And so I kind of always like looked forward to that. Like never feeling like I missed out or anything. I just was like, "Ooh, that's going to be such a new fun chapter." And so all of this happened and I was like, "Wow, this is going to be different and probably maybe a lot easier." It has not been easy, I will tell you. So early on, whenever we would do things, especially as a family, and okay, we would get, let's say, we'd have to announce something. Okay, Mark, you say this, and it has it on the paper. Charlie says this, Dixie, Heidi, and I would be like, you guys just say it. I'll just stand here. Like I didn't even want to hear my own voice. I was so just not there. And we, obviously the girls went from 0 to 100 with all of this, but so did I. And I was my purpose in life was to care for these kids as, a stay-at-home mom. And, don't get me wrong, Mark and I, we had so much fun. Our marriage has been so much fun as we're going on 24 years next month. It's like I had such like a full stay-at-home mom life, I will say. And I think because he worked from home most of the time. So we were always like, to have your best friend with you all the time, like, is so much fun. So I am just really I mean, my followers were my kids' followers. I really wasn't posting that much. And I didn't really know what I wanted. What is my brand? Like, who am I? What am I about? So that continued until I did Dancing with the Stars. And you first of all, I didn't even know if I could remember an 8 count. I don't know how this is going to go. Thank God Charlie was there doing it as well, because we really, I mean, we're going through the same, different, but at the same thing, your time is not on your side. So you get there, show day, you're hopefully remember all of the choreography. Then when you're done, you have the judges, you have a studio audience and millions of people watching at home. And then you run up top and then they interview you. And I remember thinking, I can't, I have nobody to hide behind. My family is not here. And the way that the show works, they interview the person, not the pro. I'm thinking I'm just going to give the mic to him and he could talk. And they're like, no, that's not how this works. So every week I just felt myself get a little bit taller, feel a lot more confident. I was on 8 out of the 10 weeks, and by the end I felt like I could visually look back at the growth, and cuz it happened so fast. I do think had none of that happened, I would have gotten there. I think it would have taken me years. It was just being thrown into this and the nature of the show and the way you have to push yourself physically, mentally, emotionally. I just got there a lot quicker. And I just feel so different now in the best way. We're now empty nesters, and Mark and I are just like enjoying this phase of our life. And I'm almost coming into the marriage as a new person, because I like stand so tall in my shoes, no pun intended, D'Amelio footwear. But you know what I mean? And but I'll tell you, the Dancing with the Stars was a really hard time for Mark and I. He realized a lot about himself, and now half of our family is, Dancing with the Stars is intense. It's hours of your life every single day, and you don't know when it's going to end. Hopefully you go the whole way like Charlie did, but it's just constant. And when you're not there, your body's hurt, you're trying to remember choreography, you're emotionally wrecked. It's so much. And so he was missing me, but it was coming out in a different way because he didn't know what it was. He also is always used to, I'm always around, and I wasn't. And so that was really hard for him. And as I'm becoming like super confident and really finding my voice and learning how to communicate, and it's almost like he was shy and I was like, it was such a weird dynamic. And we did a lot of therapy. And the one thing was, we were both fighting for the same thing, like more time with each other. I'm like, okay, I feel like we're going to be okay, because if we were fighting because I can't stand you and I don't want to be near you, that's a problem. We were fighting because we weren't together. And it was anyway, it's just like we got to a place in our marriage that I didn't think we could ever get to. I didn't know that existed, but we, had to go through some shit to get there. And it's beautiful. And it's so funny because the girls are like, why is your relationship having a glow up? Like, you guys have been married a long time. This is goals. They're so cute. And so they're like so happy for us, but it took a minute to get here for sure.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I have so many questions. I love
I
every
know, I
single thing
felt
that
like
you just said.
I'm rambling. Sorry.
No, that was perfect. That was perfect. I hope that my brain can remember every single point I want to go back through. The first thing that I really love that you said was about how really being thrown into like the deep end with Dancing with the Stars is what broke you out of that shell. I have a saying on For the Girls that's just it comes up in every episode because whether it has to do with your personal life, with dating, with work, with entrepreneurship, I always have said for years, confidence is a byproduct of action. You don't get confident and then take action. You take action and then you get confident. And so, when people get nervous to do something, they want to wait to do that thing until they build up the confidence first. Whereas I say, no, do it messy. Throw yourself into the deep end first, fail. Then you learn from it, and that's how you get better at it. So I also have a bunch of clients. I've coached girls over the years in business and confidence and everything in between, even just through content creation. And the amount of girls who are just afraid to even post a TikTok. I'm like, just do it. Your first 10 are gonna suck. Just do it. You'll get more confident afterwards. I'm like, trust me, they are gonna suck. Trust me,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
are.
yeah.
So would you say that that's like kind of how you feel like that you really built your confidence was just by taking that action first? And do you think, there's other moms out there too who no, they're not going to be on Dancing with the Stars, but maybe they're stay-at-home moms too who also feel like they didn't have their own thing. They were more of someone for everybody else except for being like really themselves. What kind of advice really would you have there from your own experience for them?
Well, I just want to say thank you for saying that. And I actually wrote it down because I love that. And that you just put into words what actually happened and a lot shorter. So that was, I did write that down. Yeah, I think that, yeah, I don't think I could say it better than you just did. It's so scary. And, although what I did was very physical, and not everything might be like that or that level of intensity for so many hours, for so many weeks, but it whatever it is you're scared of, yeah, you're right. Just let it be messy because I'd rather go through the messiness. If you can just remember, like, if you can just get through the messiness, how beautiful it's going to be on the other side. Because I always say, like, do hard things. Because once you do that, you're like, oh, okay, that was really hard. And the hard things might not be hard to somebody else. It might seem very little, but to you, if you're having your own feeling about it, it's hard. And you do it and you're like, wait, I actually did that. And just like bask in that glory, girl, because it means a lot. Because it means it's going to mean more than just doing that thing. Because what it does for you, it's something in your brain, your body, your energy that clicks. And then you're like, oh, if I can do that and I got through it and that was hard, I'm gonna like replicate that. And that's when I was doing Dancing with the Stars. I right after I got maybe week 2, I was already questioning, how am I going to replicate this level of messy, scary, hard stuff? Because not everything's going to be like that. And it's wild because I have, and it's different, but I've been able to, I'm constantly putting myself in the middle of something that is, I have no idea what I'm doing, and I do it, and I still get as proud of myself as I did when I did Dancing with the Stars. And so I think just that, whatever that thing is, just I always try to, I'm big on visualization, so I always try to like imagine myself visually, like what does that look like, but also imagine like the feeling, and once you get that feeling, the goal is like for me, just keep replicating that. I want to keep feeling that for the rest of my life. So I think Yeah, I do think just do it messy and just do it for sure.
I love that. I especially love the imagining the feeling because I think that is such a big thing that people not only that they don't do, but that they don't even know is an option. Like feeling the feeling before it happens. That's something that I did a lot when I was single and was like wanting to meet somebody. I had to imagine what it would feel like to be in love, because if you're coming into dating as like dating sucks, dating is so hard, like I don't want to go on this date, like you're
Right.
not going to attract somebody,
Yeah.
because you're going into dating like hoping they cancel because you just don't want to go through another date. Like you can't live life that way, because then you're constantly going to attract negative experiences if you go into
Right.
everything negatively. So I love that you said that about feeling the feelings. Like imagine what it would be like to succeed. Imagine what it would be like to just try something, even if it's a hobby. It doesn't even have to be for money. It doesn't have
Absolutely.
to be monetized, just
So
take a
true.
pottery class. I'm like, do
Yeah,
something, go bowling, like just do something for fun.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I do think that I'm not making it seem like the hard thing. Sometimes it freezes you. Like I know I've been there, and I'm, on live television, I've been there, and like like so it's not to make that like, oh, don't worry about that. It can really freeze you and keep you where you are. I think for me, I always put more value on the feeling after, because I know it's going to be better. And I try to not sit so much in the fear and the anxiety of what's holding me back. I try to just focus the energy on okay, what is that going to feel like after? So, uh, it's fun. But I will tell you, I did do something recently that was really hard. I have a friend who is actually kind of become my mentor at this point, but we're like besties too. And she's amazing. She's like been in business for years. She's at the top of her field. And I was telling her, like, I don't even know. I don't even like, as from a business standpoint, as even personal standpoint, like what when I'm trying to like market myself, what is my brand? Like, I don't even know what it is, because I like a lot of different things. And she said, "You need to write a manifesto." I'm like, "I don't even know what that is." And so she talked me through it, gave me notes on how to go about it. Not a lot of notes. And it was just coincidentally, Mark was out of town. It was me and the 5 dogs, and I sat in front of a desktop, which I can't even tell you the last time I did that, for 4 days, and I wrote. I can't even tell you the last time I wrote anything. And I wrote and I wrote. I mean, I had a very little limited guideline she gave me, and it was just things coming out that I didn't realize. The confidence boost it gave me, what it did for me. I read it almost every day. It's basically just like my brand deck. It's who I am. And the funny thing was, I knew all of those things. Like, I kept asking myself, who am I? What am I about? And my friend is like, okay, that's almost impossible to answer. You have to look at it differently. And so the ways that she kind of laid it out for me to kind of take and run with was, just in a different way. And it was all stuff like I knew this stuff about me, but I couldn't explain it, and I couldn't put it into words that made sense to anybody else. And anyway, so it's like it's changed how literally how I stand up every day, and how I'm just so sure of who I am, while being open to new things and change. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that has been super exciting for me lately.
It makes perfect sense. Sometimes you just have to actually write it out, and sometimes, like you said, like you're about the visual learning and whatnot. Sometimes you have to actually see it in black and white in front of you. And also, you mentioned something so important too, which was that it's what you already knew, but probably subconsciously you were just like burying it down there because you're like, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, like I can't be all these things. I like so many different things. Like who really am
Yeah.
I? You probably put on all your other hats first, the mom hat, the wife hat, and that tends to happen in families is like the mother, especially for a stay-at-home mom. I grew up with my mom the same way too, like puts herself last. It's always like the leaders eat last is like a big saying that we always say. Like the moms eat last. Like, I mean, half the time my mom, I remember growing up, like we were all already eating dinner. She didn't even sit down yet. Like that's
Right.
just how it goes. And so you
Yeah.
kind of can lose yourself in that
Yeah.
lifestyle as much as it's a blessing and nothing to ever like per se complain about. You love that your life and you would do anything for your family. Sometimes you forget, you lose yourself a little bit. You forget who you really are too. And I think what you said was so important and vital because I think deep down, yes, you know who you are, you know what you love, but maybe you just like forgot to be that for a little bit. So then you get to write it all out and you're so re-inspired.
Oh, for sure. And, and then as I'm sitting here, because when I say I wrote for 4 days, a lot of times I just looked at the keyboard like, okay, I see the letters there. Now, how are they going to all come together into words? But I think it was me, I did question as I'm sitting there, is there a part of me that doesn't want to know? Like, is there a reason I'm purposely not having, I'm 52. Why do I not know? And I think that was the thing. Like I realized is that you do know, you just haven't taken the time to sit and think about it because, yeah, you are doing all these things. Your wife, your mom, your business owner, you work, this, that, dogs, everything. And I didn't put the importance on it. And now I'm thinking, how could I have not put the important that this is the roadmap to my best life with every relationship I have. It's and myself and for myself. So it's just like it's like something very new and I'm like super excited about. So I feel like excited
Yeah.
to talk about it.
Yeah. We're going to talk more about the business stuff in a second, but before we do, I don't want to forget how you brought up your marriage and you went through a tough time with Dancing with the Stars. I think a lot of women can really hear more about this, even for their own sake of like, you know, how do you stay present in your marriage and work on, growing your marriage while also getting to accomplish your dreams and putting yourself first? Like you said, you had that tough time. Was it really just like communication was the key or more quality time? Like how did you guys really overcome that?
I mean, it's so cliche, right? Communication is key, and we always pride ourselves in communicating. Since we met, he's a really good communicator. I have not been a good communicator. I didn't. I was very shy growing up, so I wasn't really talking much in general. And then I feel like I never really got good at it. And I got so much better when I met Mark because he was so good at it and I learned so much. But as I grew and, got older, I got worse. And although we were communicating, I wouldn't say we were communicating in a way that really moved the needle for our relationship. Like there was nothing bad. It just he was having feelings and I was having feelings that we couldn't I didn't even know how to communicate what I was feeling like, okay, how does that what do I even say to make it make sense? That's kind of where I was. And when I tell you I found my voice, all of a sudden I knew how to communicate. And the communication was, you know, um, so I let's say today, I mean this didn't happen, but let's just say, so I have a podcast I have a meeting at 12 and then we have a podcast and then a Zoom and then we have a podcast and then we have something together at 4:15. So I already feel like our days were going to be in passing today. So how about when we get home, because we all work, we work together. So we get here together, we leave together. Um, let's take some time to connect, but I'm also need some time to sort of like process the day because that's going to be notes I want to take and just journal a little bit. So I think in the communication is managing the expectations, not just for him but for me, and okay, what is this rest of this day is going to look like, and it's not always like, okay, this, it's not always like that. Just some days it's like we're together all day, and I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm like, I really miss you. Although we were together all day, there was no connection there because we're in an office full of people working. So, like, but so let's take some time to just like talk about nothing, not work, not the kids, just talk and connect. And that has been, that was the difference. Those were the conversations that we weren't having because at the end of the day, probably the thing that whenever we would have moments where we weren't connecting was the where we felt not as good in the relationship. And so now when we're feeling that, if I'm feeling it, if he's feeling it, we're like, hold on, I feel like we're not connecting, like eye to eye. Let's just talk and hug. Like hugs to me, my love language is touch and acts of service, and he knows that. And so he uses that to like bring us closer, and I do for him as well. So it's just the kind of communicating. Also, I told him this recently, how kind our our marriage is. Like there's never like, cuz a lot of it is tone, and he, just the way that we talk to each other is very kind. And I felt that, but I think that's the other thing. Sometimes I think things that I'm like, well, I'm sure he knows, but he doesn't. And he was like, I appreciate you saying that so much because I feel the same, but I never thought to mention it. But it is a very kind, like, thing, you know? And so that's huge because the world is not always kind. And so to have that person that's so nice, we don't, it doesn't mean we always agree. Like, even in our disagreements, we're very kind to each other. And and just recognizing it and vocalizing that has been so nice. It feels like really
Yeah.
good.
I mean, you're together for over 20 years now. So I it could be so easy to not be kind. It could be so easy to lose your patience for the other person. It could be so easy to be like, "Oh, I need time away from my wife, my kids, whatever the case is." But
Mhm.
being intentional about not going down that route and being intentional about always staying kind, and the fact, I love that you mentioned love languages because I mean, how do relationships survive without knowing what the other person's love language is? I think that's so important, and the fact that you are together as long as you are, and you mentioned from the beginning, you were like, he's my best friend. I think that's one of the biggest things that keeps the friendship there too in the relationship, is that you both get to serve each other in your love languages and make sure the other feels heard and seen and loved. And there was the other thing that you mentioned. I love my quotes, so I always like say my quotes that I that
I
I
love that.
that I
I
hear.
love that.
You mentioned you talked about sometimes you had conversations that didn't push the needle, and it reminded me of a quote which was, communication isn't the goal, comprehension is the goal. And comprehension is just about actually hearing each other and actually understanding each other, and that's how you push the needle, because you can talk, but if you're not
Yep.
seeing eye to eye, if you're not on the same page, then no, you're not going to progress. So I think all of that really like sums up how you said the girls were like, you're together for 24 years. How are you having a glow up? Because you guys are so intentional about these things, comprehending each other, having those like real conversations, loving each other in your love languages, being intentional about your time after a long work day, all of that together, and being kind to each other, all of that. I mean, in another 20 years you're going to have another glow up. Like that's how you keep a relationship
Yeah.
thriving.
Well, and the crazy part of all of that is we just learned love language, the real good communicating and connecting is all new. I mean, that's new to us. And I was like, and we talk about that, like, we did pretty good for not knowing this stuff. And that's why I said we're in a place we never knew we could get because we didn't know that stuff before. We
Mm,
didn't know about love languages. So it's like when you can actually like this is the roadmap, it's and we do for each other, it's just it takes you to another level. And I think too, um I think there were times where I would have something I'd want to say, but I'm like, oh, it's like he's not gonna, I don't know if he's gonna I don't know if I could explain it in a way he's gonna understand or it's gonna make sense, so what's the point? And so I just wouldn't say anything. And I think what he's been able to tell me is, like, I don't care what it is that you're trying to say, but and I thought that what he explained to me was that I'm going to give you this very safe space to say anything. And he had to say, I felt like you knew that. You can tell me anything. You can say anything. Like, how have I, everything that we've been through, how has that not come through? And I didn't even know that I was feeling that, but I was like, I needed to hear that. And now I'll say anything. And he, but it went both ways. Like, there was some things it's like, well, it's just not even worth it. Like, not even, like, it might be something little. I'm like, I need to know those little things because I never want the little things to turn into big things. And so now it's just like this free flowing kind, like super communicative, connecting that we never knew was in store for us after 24, almost 24 years. So it's a very exciting time for us individually because we're doing our own work individually too, on like fulfilling our lives. And then when we come together and get to talk about it, like, it's just we're just in such a different place, but in a good place.
yeah. I love that. I love that. So not only is Mark your life partner, but he is a business partner too. You have the personal life and the professional life. I want to know about your brands and how they actually came to be. So you have D'Amelio Footwear and you have Be Happy Snacks, which these two might sound like completely random things to people. Like, how did this family come out with these specific products? So why were these two brands born? Like, what's the story behind them?
So, well, the footwear, we have a friend that lived in where we lived in Connecticut. That Mark knew her brother for years, and knew her dad, and knew that she was in the she's a footwear designer. And so when all this stuff happened with our family, she was like, hey, the company, she was at the Commuto group, we wanted to give the girls some shoes, so we're like, yeah, come by. So she came over, and then Mark's like, yeah, if this ever turns into a thing, maybe we'll do a footwear line together. She was like, well, you have my number. And then fast forward, as we were, the girls are doing a lot of brand deals and brand partnerships, which we will continue to do always. But there was a part, Mark's always been an entrepreneur his whole career. He's always worked for himself and started his own businesses. So the girls grew up seeing that. And there was the conversation of like, what could we do that we can have full creative freedom on, that something that we can own, like something that we can have a part in from the start, that's ours. And so that's kind of how the conversation started with starting D'Amelio Brands. And then we remembered this whole conversation we had a few years ago with Lauren, and just Mark being in the clothing business, although he hadn't been in the footwear business in this way, he knew that business and he was very comfortable with it. And the girls and I, we're always we're always wearing really uncomfortable shoes. So we thought that this would be a good opportunity to put something in the marketplace that was comfortable and cool and that people would like. And so that's kind of how that started. And I think part of the story people don't get is, because we do a lot of brand partnerships and brand deals, is that this is ours, we own it. We have business partners, but we own majority. So this isn't something like a shoe that existed, we put our name on. All of the footbeds we own outright. They're our designs. We get them made in the same factories of some of the biggest brands in the world, so that's been the hardest thing of this journey, is people just not believing that we're an actual real footwear, a real business, and that we actually own it. So that has been super exciting. Of course, it comes with a lot of highs and lows of starting a new brand. We're a startup. So, we have a board that we have to meet with, and so it's just been also finding our place, the fact that I'm older, and then that I wear this I'm promoting this footwear brand, and the girls are younger and they're promoting it, and like, people just maybe don't understand. But I do feel like now it's been almost a year, we have so many different styles, from sneakers to heels to slides and everything in between, that there is something for everyone. So that's kind of the footwear in a nutshell, but it's been so exciting and so much fun. We get to go to the trade show in Vegas that Mark's been going to for 30 years. This is something he's done. Like, it's the girls have gone. That would be our only family vacation, because we couldn't afford a family vacation. So we'd go wherever Mark was going for work, and we would go to the trade show, and the girl, they were in their stroller. They've been doing this their whole life. And now to go back as adults with their own brand is so exciting. And then the popcorn, I know it seems very, very random. Who's not a snacker, first of all? But it was just something we talked about, we wanted to do something in the snack space. My kids thrive. Any good snack, they're all over it. They love to do Go Puff, and they're all about the snacks. They said our snacks at our house suck, but we're working on it. Anyway, so that's kind of where that came from, and the opportunity with popcorn, and then Walmart wanted to work with us. So it kind of just all came together. Like, I've eaten popcorn every day almost my whole life. I love it. And there was something big, like my mom and I, we used to pop our own, and we liked the burnt ones. It was a whole thing. It goes way back. So that was it just kind of happened that way. But we want to be in that space. We love that space. We think and we also think it's fun. It's different than footwear, fun in a different way. And, we travel a lot, and I pack my snacks, everybody, that was everybody had their snacks. Everybody's good. So that's kind of just that in a nutshell. And then we have the little acne patches. That's not out yet. We're still working on that. But
Hmm.
my kids wear them all the time. Like, why don't we start our own? Duh. So that's kind of where that came from. It's like people like to make up their own, like, crazy stories about, like, why would they do this? This is so random. But I mean, as I said earlier, my kids, whatever they showed an interest in, let's try it. Let's try it. We're just trying things. Not obviously we're not going to be haphazard with our money, but it's something we enjoy. It's fun. Let's just do it. So,
Yeah. I mean, first of all, everyone's always gonna have,
yeah.
those thoughts and opinions. It comes with the territory. And I feel
Yeah.
like when you're already this successful, they want to like put you in this hole of like, oh, that Charlie's the TikTok girl,
Mhm.
so she can't also be the entrepreneur, she can't be both of those things.
Right.
I see them do it all the time. They do it even with like Hailey Bieber, she came out
I
with
know.
the skincare. Like, come on. Like, I just feel like people don't like to see people thrive in all different areas, because it's their own perception, of just their
Yeah.
life. And so seeing it happen for you guys is just probably mind-blowing to them. But it makes so much sense too, because first of all, like you said, you guys are always wearing uncomfortable shoes because look at your lifestyle. You're doing things, you're on the carpet, you're doing interviews and whatnot, you're getting dressed up. So of course that inspires, you to come up with your own. And I think the snacks too, it's such a smart, even the acne patches that you just said, it's such a smart way to go, as opposed to what the standard, I think the standard, influencer to business owner pipeline is typically like makeup or beauty, like skincare, like that route. Um, and this is so much more personable to you guys.
Mhm.
And like, the acne patches, like you said, like they wear them in the videos, so I'm sure they probably have had a million comments. What are those patches? Where did you get that from? Like, people want to know these things. So it
Yeah,
is a smart venture to make it your own. But I think all of
yeah.
that makes perfect sense and sounds actually pretty on brand for you guys when
I
you
know,
explain
that's
it
the thing. And
that way.
yeah, I feel like too, I mean, as I said, like the girls, whatever they wanted to try, like we moved our whole life to LA. Like, I know not everybody would do that. The nature of Mark's business, because he works for himself, he could do what he does anywhere, which he still does. He still has his job from forever, but he's doing all the other stuff on top of it. But it's like that's more of a it's more us than anything, because we're like, yeah, let's throw a podcast room in our office. Like, so like we haven't done a podcast yet here, but it's ready for when we are. We have 5 dogs. Any family that's going to take on 5 dogs, they're willing, they're open, they're like, that's just how Mark is. Very much that way. He's very much like, let's just do it, let's just have fun and like do it. And so the girls growing up like that, they're not doing trying things is not odd to them. I think people like aren't used to, I think people tend to, well, because there's a lot to think about, of like, well, what if it doesn't work or this or that or whatever? And we're willing to take the risk. I think that's more Mark. He's that way. Like he's willing to, let's just take a risk and see what happens. Like if it works out and if it's fun, like we can figure out the business stuff. Like he knows the business stuff, and we'll just like create something together that could be great. So when you really know us and really look at it, it's more on brand than anything, honestly.
You know what? I just don't think people are used to seeing such supportive parents and like really empowering parents who are encouraging their kids to try, because I do think more often than not it is the parents putting in the kids' head like, don't do that. Like, what if you fail at that? Don't invest your money in that. You don't waste your money. Don't throw your money away. Like, they put more of a scarcity mindset into the kids' heads of like, make sure you triple check this 500 times, because what if it doesn't
Mhm.
work out and whatnot. And so it makes kids, I mean, it also has a lot to do with how people grow up, because I always say like, sometimes your mindset with money has to do with the way that you were raised around money. Like if you saw your parents constantly fighting about money or telling you you can't do this, you can't have that because we can't, maybe it makes you grow up and become more scarce when it comes to investing your money. But it seems like, you know I know you mentioned like you guys weren't traveling the world growing up, like you didn't have the money to do that, but you were at least um they were at least seeing their dad running a business and being entrepreneurial and being able to support a family, and that in itself probably has inspired them over the years that they want to be able to do that for their future and be able to
Mhm.
invest and run businesses and whatnot. So I do think that a lot of them and their success, I hope you take credit for how the mindset is, because it is a generational thing, like it
Thank you.
definitely, the family upbringing has a lot to do with that mindset. And the fact that you guys are so supportive and able to say, just try it. Like, okay, the worst thing
Mhm.
happens, it fails, at least you got the experience, at least you
I
learned.
th- and I think anybody who's an entrepreneur or starts their own business can agree. For Mark, when he was risky, when we were dating and he couldn't afford to be risky, we lived in New York City, like, but he had enough. He's so I love this man. He's so good at, I'm going to take the risk, but I'm going to do the work and I'm going to make it work. And he's always done that. It's not like, oh yeah, well, let's take the risk. We have all this money. We did not have money to do that at all, but it was like we were going to figure it out. And so, and he it almost like in some way, I don't know, I have to talk about this with him, but it's almost in some way it makes him work harder to make it, because there is no safety net. He started his first clothing brand, And like literally weeks after, we found out I was pregnant with Dixie, and we were like, oh, like we were comfortable risking when it was just the two of us. Now we have like a baby on the way, and it was tough times financially. We lived in a fourth floor walk up. I was nauseous. It was not a good situation, but he worked so hard. He would go to what's it called, Kinkos, and because he would go to trade shows and he would make his sales book, and he would be there all night because it had, he would make the graphics for the spine of the binders, like the work. And he's so like type A and meticulous and wanted it to be successful. So he put the work in, and he's always just done that. Let's just do it. And so the girls are like that. They're just like, let's just do it. We're going to put the work in. We're going to make it work. We're going to make it work. We'll figure it out. So although it may seem haphazard, it's just when you're going to just do everything. And he's very good at pivoting when something isn't quite working. Okay, how can we pivot this? And he's just really good at what he does.
He's a problem solver. And I think
Very much.
how you mention, how maybe people online have this like misconception of just like, oh, they just have so much money that they're just throwing things at the wall until something sticks. That's their own that's their own mindset. You guys,
Mhm.
like hearing how you talk about him and you guys and the girls, like you guys are entrepreneurial. You have the right mindset. There's a reason why your businesses work. And it's because of, like you said, he's not just like taking risks and like seeing what happens and hoping he gets lucky.
Right,
He's
right.
taking the steps. He's diligent about doing the work and doing what it takes to
Mhm.
make that happen. Whereas a lot of people just don't have that in them. So I would very much take any of that commentary with a grain of salt. It's just like you either
I
get it or you don't. Like,
I
like
know,
I'm
I
sorry, then
know.
you just don't get it. So,
Yeah.
to
And
me,
look,
it makes complete
it's
sense.
not perfect. It's business, and the economy is not great. So we're figuring it out like we would do with anything. So, but at the end
Hmm.
of the day, he's always my Mark and the girls all have ADHD, so they have to be like doing something, and this is just perfect for them. Like it's just they if the alternative is a 9 to 5, like they would go crazy. So this
Hmm.
like keeps a fire in their belly, and it's exciting, and even in the uncertainty, like that excites them. So
Yeah, yeah. My last couple questions for you before we wrap up. I want to know about your recent experience with doing the panels and whatnot, because, like you said, this is all new to you, and so you're doing panels with other female founders and business owners, and I'm sure this has been like a whirlwind of an experience for you. Tell me how that has been going.
I I can't even I don't even know if I could put it into words, the feeling I get when I do that. And I think I'm starting to think that I kind of like being the person, because I have people in my life that like have these like backgrounds and the history and business and all of this. And then I have people that with the platform that I have, that they need to share that. And if I could just be the middleman to bring it together, like that brings me like so much joy. And I mean, these panels that I've been doing, the feedback is, I just like walked away with so much from that I can actually apply to my own life, even though I'm doing something that's so different. And so that's what it just, I can't get enough of it. It makes me so happy to do that. And I'm like, I'm going to be a panel girl, because I just love being that person to like help connect and share the things that people have learned after years of ups and downs, and you learn from the failures and all of that. And so yeah, obviously I have my own to add to it, because I do like to do that. But I'm sitting on the panel sometimes like, oh wait, I'm actually moderating here, I have to, but I'm learning. And so maybe some part of me is selfishly just like doing it so I could get first row seat to learn all this stuff. So it's been so great, and I'm having so much fun doing it.
You're like head
So,
down taking notes, and then you're like, "Oh wait,
yes,
I'm
I'm
supposed to
literally
be."
taking notes. I'm even taking notes right now.
Yeah, I actually I love that you just said that, because that this is my last question for you, which is, you mentioned journaling and taking notes and things that you do on a daily basis. Aside, including that and aside from that, what would you say are your personal practices? Because you're wearing, like I said, a million hats as the mom and the wife and the business owner, and the panel, the moderator of the panels and everything. You're wearing all these different hats, and also making your own dreams come true with things like Dancing with the Stars and your own passion projects like modeling and whatnot. How do you stay sane? What are your personal practices, your daily habits, little things, self-care? How do you really cope ultimately?
So I have a few things that I do. The goal is to check them all, check the boxes every day. Not every day it happens. I don't beat myself over it if it doesn't, but when I get them all, it makes me so happy. So is to get enough sleep. And especially as I get older, I'm like, I used to be like, oh, just I'll sleep when I'm dead. No, prioritize the rest because you're going to be so much better when you're awake. So the sleep, eating like thoughtfully, not perfectly. I just try to make sure I get my protein in. That's really the only thing I look at. Like if I get my protein in, I'll probably getting the calories in I need to sustain my workouts like that. Move my body slash lift weights. That's my favorite thing. Drink water and breathe, think, meditate, whatever you do, wherever you call it, that. Those are the 5 things. And every time it's kind of like closing the rings on your Apple Watch. When I get them all and the little fireworks go off, I'm like, "Hey, I like my own little personal party." But that's it. Those are the things, besides like make your bed, and do all those things. But that's like that's it. And like the only bonuses are like when I get like a good hug from Mark and the girls and the dogs, like that's just everything. That's just like icing on the cake. But those are the things that I feel like if I can always work to be consistent on, at least maybe I don't achieve them all, but I am trying, that those are the things I feel like keep me sane.
Yeah, I think celebrating the small wins is so important, because it makes the big wins that much better.
Oh
If you're
yeah.
able to celebrate yourself, even down to the little things, like, you know what, like I ate pretty good today. Not to say that it's perfect, but I feel good about the way that I treated my body. Like, that's a win.
Yeah.
Sometimes we feel pretty shitty. Like today, I was able to walk like 3.5 miles, and that was a huge win for me because I work from home. So sometimes my steps for the day is like 1,000, because I've been sitting here
You're
all day,
there.
So
Right.
so
Right.
knowing that today was like a 10,000 step day, like that's a win. And these are the things that we need to celebrate, especially when you have so much going on. Like those little personal things is just so important. So
Yeah.
I love that.
Absolutely.
So what is next for you? You mentioned that the acne little stickers, they're not out yet. They're coming out. Is that
Not yet. No, they're not out
okay?
yet. We're still like we have a lot going on right now. So we're paying
What
attention
can
to
we
that. So
expect?
oh my gosh. Well, we're coming up on a year of launching our footwear brand. So that is very exciting. Charlie's turning 20. I'm not going to have any more teenagers. That's exciting. Mark and I are having our 24th wedding anniversary. That's exciting. Um, Work wise, I mean, just I'm enjoying making content and just really finding those moments to create something that I could share online that just brings me a lot of happiness. I feel like that's good. My niece's bachelorette party, we're going to Nashville. That's exciting. Like it's just those little things that make it like it seems like it's those are all little things, but to me they're all big things.
No, I love how important family and the personal life. I think it makes so much sense. Like, I of course I see you online, but speaking with you is totally different. Like I can really like, see your energy, and I think family for you is like clearly number 1, and I think that's
Yeah.
honestly what keeps you guys grounded, which ultimately leads to success, and I think you guys have so much more success ahead of you because you're genuinely good people, you know, and good things come to
Thank
good
you.
people. So I see that. I had to say, I talking to you, like, I can, and the way you talk about your husband, I feel like you're both such young souls. You mentioned that you're 52, and I was like, what? Like, I not saying that that's old at all, because trust me, it's not. But I you give such like a really young energy that if you would have told me you were 40, I would have totally like been like, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you
My
for
last
doing what you do, because I think what you do is
Aw.
so important, because I know there's a lot of young girls that need that in their life. So thank you for that.
Of course. Thank you for saying that. You're very welcome. My last question before I forget is, do you have any other panels in New York coming up? Because I missed your New York panel, but I want to come to one.
Well, I don't have anything set, but I want to. So I'm trying to make that happen, because my a lot of my friends are on the East Coast, and so when I did the one in New York, they all came, and that just was like to have all your homies there. I'm like, "Oh, this is everything." So, I do want to try and make that happen. So, if you hear of anything, let me know, but we're working on it.
All right, cool. I would love to stay in the loop on that. Where can everybody find you?
My socials are pretty much all Heidi D'Amelio on everything, and yeah, I think people don't know to look for me on Snapchat, because I feel like that's a very young app, but I do a lot on there that I like, just in the moment things. So a lot of dog stuff on there too, my little babies. But yeah,
Cool.
on all the platforms, Heidi D'Amelio.
Amazing. Well, this was so much fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Victoria. It was so nice to meet you.